and then at some point it stopped.
Hello, everybody. It's the 8th of January. And
2025.
2025. Yeah, we don't want to lose the year. Seb and I happen to be in the same room today. And so we're going to have a little conversation with you guys about what we're up to at the Love Foundry and why it's important that we get it right for you. And this is about what it takes to empower a person with love, the energy of love, the direct flow of love from the universe itself, from life itself. So now I'm trying to think how to get it's complicated. It's a complicated problem.
Yeah,
but once the pattern is set, the posture is set of how it works, then all we do is do that, and then it works. And so commentary with you will show you that this is not an impossible job to do. This is something that can be done by anyone, anywhere, without any specialized knowledge, even though there's a billion esoteric things we could understand about love and the universe and how it all functions. But we don't need to do that. We're setting a pattern and a posture that allows this to be practically put into operation. And what I wanted to discuss with Seb is how we, being humanity, have gotten to this point where we are right now, where this is the next step. So what do you think of that?
well, I think it's also important to remember that as well as it working and flowing and everything like this, it should be joyful. It should be a joyful experience. It's something that is not only positive for you, but for other people. But once love is there, then that is a joyful experience. And I think that's important for people to remember that it's not just a process to get a result, but it's going to be something that actually is like fulfilling in their lives.
Yeah, I think that what you're saying is really important because it's the experience of joy arising in us that tells us it's working.
Yeah.
So you can't assume it's working because we said it was going to work or something else like that. That's not how it goes. You have to know by your own direct experience with the process you're in and how you're relating it to others that you need evidence. You need evidence it's going right. And the evidence of it's going right will be the sense of joy, following your own inner sense of this is giving me not only joy, but energy and a sense of connection and a sense of rightness. Because our rightness is not something you can put in your pouch and take with you. It has to become yours. It has to be your sense of truthfulness. So I think that's an excellent point, and I think that happens automatically if the few points that we're going to cover in the workshop, this is a workshop from now, even from this moment, you're in a workshop. So to be in the workshop, you have to want to empower yourself with love. Now, you can watch this and decide if you want to do that, but if you've already decided you want to do that, then be in the workshop, take steps. And now, what's going to be the first step in the workshop outside of your desire for that to work? It's going to be, what do I have to know? What do I have to know how to do to make this happen?
Yeah.
And this things tumble into my head while I'm doing this because we're not teaching this workshop like a million times. We're producing the elements and bringing them together because we know it'll work. We've taught the course. We know how it works. So now we're refining it to find out what will work with with other people all the time. And so the order of these points is I don't know, what would you think would be the first order of business to put yourself in a workshop where you're being empowered by love?
Well, I don't know if this is correct, but the first thing that came to me was being able to identify love. But
exactly, me too.
Okay.
So I think you're right on there.
And I think the joy part of it is a good way of identifying it. And I think, I'm
not cutting you off. I'm anticipating how people are going to do this because you're already doing it. And the joy arises from an energetic connection. So we're sitting here, you're out there, but we are in a field of love. So it's already here. We don't have to go get it. It's here. There'll never be any more than's here right now. The only thing that's going to change is we're going to become more aware of it. See, it's us that changes, not love, ever. Yeah. And it's already constantly everywhere, right?
Yeah.
So tuning into it. So we immediately open up our sense of awareness and tune yourself consciously, tune yourself to the frequency of love so that it comes into your awareness and you can begin the process of identifying it. Does that make sense to you?
No,
all right.
Totally.
So how do you do that? I do it. I've done decades of meditation work and things, so maybe the way I do it isn't the way you would do it. And so how do you do it? Or how would you think it to go approach it?
I reflect on the times when it's actually been strongest for me.
Okay.
And that normally is when I'm offering something to someone else. Like it's like the necessity is important for me. And I think about that connection that it creates with someone else. And that puts me in a place where I'm trying to then connect to that same place to everything else sort of around me. And that sort of gets me in the place where I get very sort of present and I can feel it.
Well, that makes sense because love is unity. Love carries in it the power of unity, and that's what gives it to the universe. The God is love thing idea isn't a misnomer because it's just part of life itself. What is life? Part of life is love. It's not an effect of life. It is life. And I think we have to grow into deeper experience before that becomes obvious to us. But we can, for the sake of moving forward, we can assume that that's going to turn out to be true. Do you think that's probably true? All right. So I do. I certainly agree that it's probably true. And life is bigger than just love. It's an interesting way in which humanity has gotten to where we are. And I don't care where you are on this planet or what you studied under, whether you are Christian from someplace or Jewish or Muslim or Buddhist or Hindu or wherever you learned your stuff, we have kind of basically divided life into three aspects of energy. And aspects of things are not the same as attributes of things. The aspect of something is the actual essence of the thing itself, where an attribute is something that it can do. Like love can do unity, and it can do several other wonderful things. But it's an aspect of life itself. And so what other aspects of life would you consider? There's only three as far as I can determine them.
So love being one.
Yes, love is what we call the second aspect of life. What would be the first aspect of life?
Intelligence.
Now it would be the third. And there's a reason for that order. I'm not making it up. I'm just applying the order that makes it work best in everybody's language. The first aspect of life is will. which is the initiating aspect, the Aries aspect of life, because Aries is the first sign of the zodiac, and it's that initiating will. But the warrior, the king, the decider, these progenitors of things, the things that by their actions cause other things, this is the will that comes forward, and that's an aspect of life. Life has will, and that will is governed by the purpose that sent it forth. It's not just there. It identifies will as a thing because some purpose gives it a condition to go do. And so we have will and we have love, which functions differently from will by a lot. And then we have intelligence, which is completely different from how love and will function. And and will and love are living things. In other words, will can be charged with life, a life purpose. When we meet someone who's on the will energy and they come with a strong purpose, those things come together and we have a sense of that life. And when we meet someone on a love energy, it's alive. It's alive in them. And it has amazing potentials because it's creative. It causes things to happen in a loving way, because love won't do anything other than love. It doesn't have any other, it's kind of like a one-trick pony. It can do everything. It can create anything, but it only loves. But intelligence doesn't have any defined property of itself, but it allows itself to serve will and love and give it a functioning structure. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
For just a quick, I mean, you can go miles deeper than, so we're, but we,
No, but I think a functioning structure is a good way to explain it.
yeah, that's all we're trying. We're not trying to inform you in any of these podcasts. What we're doing in these podcasts is asking you to open up your awareness and see if it registers as a possibility, not even reality, because we don't define reality for anyone. We can only define it for ourselves, and so can you. So we're having this as a working premise. If try the working premise, if later it doesn't prove itself out, throw it away. So we have life, as far as we know, divided in everything in life now. Try to find something that isn't in will, love, or intelligence, or a combination of those three, which is the basic trinity of almost everybody's idea of things. The father being will, the mother being intelligence, and the son aspect in that father, son, mother thing, that's the creative love, which is the result of the other two being produced. So it's the interaction that makes all of this Trinity business work. So we're now, we know that life probably has other, we have no idea how many other aspects, because we're still growing up. We're still learning. So other aspects, there are an order to which things can be learned. And until we've mastered certain lessons, you can't get higher lessons or greater lessons. And I think one of those lessons that's coming up is freedom. I don't know how to define freedom as an aspect of life, but I wouldn't know how to define the other three either, except that I've had some experience with looking at them. And the last one we've gotten introduced to ourselves by experience, really, is love. Love's come along last because without will and without intelligence, there wasn't any way for us to functionally understand and how to apply it. That was always been here. I think the first clam that ever emerged out of the ocean as a clam was experiencing will, love, and intelligence, but it had no idea about any of that because it's a clam. Not to downgrade clams. I think they're pretty smart and lovely company. But if you want to apply yourself to the understanding of these things, we have to develop self-conscious awareness. I mean, lots of things are intelligent. Plants are intelligent.
Yeah.
All animals, and it's astounding the degree of intelligence that you're finding out watching all of these nature shows on YouTube and stuff. What little, like spiders, people that make little buddies out of spiders, and they come up and it's astounding how much intelligence is in animals.
Yeah.
They
taught African greys to understand money and currency, and
well, the parrot.
Yeah, and share, and they were doing, basically they were giving tokens and they were giving them food for it, so they understood the exchange of money, and then they were giving disparity between how much they were giving one to another, and then they were sharing with the other ones, and depending on their relationship, they would give more to the other one, but they would always give something to the other parent.
Oh, that's hilarious. So they're giving change. They're making change.
Yeah.
Well, African greys are really sensitive animals. Yeah. I had a friend who had an African gray as a pet, and they were really buddies, and because they're super intelligent and very sensitive. And he was a road manager for the music industry. He was traveling with James Mason or somewhere. And anyway, he went on the road, and it was the first time they'd been separated for any length of time. And when he came back from being on the road, the bird would not talk to him, would have nothing to do with him. He had to give the bird away to someone else. They could make a new bondage with it because he had broken the bond. And I was reading a story about African greys because I thought about getting one, but I couldn't handle it. I didn't want a pet that was going to outlive me by 50 years. And I read where Napoleon had an African gray, and his personal bird died in something like 1969. That's how long an African gray can live. And in the esoteric world, there's a story that certain birds, and African greys are certainly one of them, and some parrots and maybe some other birds. I don't know about ravens and crows and things, but not all of them. But they are a type of angelic being that has not passed any experience in the human kingdom, and they want that experience, or they need that experience, or whatever governs that. But they're so sensitive because of the evolution of themselves that the only way they can enter into the animal kingdom to work their way towards the human kingdom is to be birds. Now, I don't know that that's true because I don't know how to prove it, but it's a reliable source. So, but it's interesting to think about. It's interesting to ponder some of these ideas and say, that could very well be, because it takes a lot of development and evolution to become a human being. And it's out of the animal kingdom that development occurs. Now, I don't know. I don't want to get into anybody's belief system. That would assume, if we followed that to its root, it would assume that we were at some point ourselves part of some herd animal kingdom experience, and who knows when and how all that works. But out of that was drawn the individuality that makes us humans, because we are self-conscious and aware, and nobody else is. Nobody below us. But vast beings above us have at some point developed that self-conscious awareness. But it's interesting to think about how all of this emerges, because then we get to know ourselves better, and then we get to know that we can distinguish love independently of will and intelligence, which means we can narrow in and learn about it, where everybody else is running on instinct, and they don't have a chance to decide, I'm going to go learn about love, or I'm going to learn about intelligence like a scientist would, or Elon's doing over there in the intellect department. So,
wait, Dan, did you tell us how you identify love in you?
Yeah, let's go back to the subject of identifying love, because that's the thing we're learning about. And
I don't think I've ever asked you this, so I don't know myself.
Oh, well, I have a number of ways in which I do it. I do it visually. Now, remember, I've done 60 years of meditation in the kingdom of love, because that's where you meditate. If you want to raise your meditation energy up, or bring love energy down into our field, then we can open up which we should do while we're watching this, we should think about opening up to receiving the energy of love into your awareness so that you're sitting there knowing that the awareness of love is pulling it into your field of awareness. Now we need to identify it. So we can identify it through any one of the senses. Your sense of touch can identify love because and it's not wrong to go back to think about, when you fell in love as a child, because that's like, I don't know when it had to be her, but all of a sudden it had to be her, right? Or him or them or whatever. But that sensation is something that arises in you spontaneously, ungoverned. It's like, I didn't want it to be her. I wanted it to be somebody else, but it's that one. That's it. So that happens to us and we fall in love. Now, sometimes that's a chemistry event in our body. And then when we get over it, we fall out of love. So now we're learning something. We're learning that maybe that was a type of love, but maybe it was related only to body chemistry. Either way, we learned something, suffered a lot, and got over it. And then we went on to the next experience with love. So any one of your senses, even the sense of smell, which doesn't sound like it makes sense, can do that because people you love smell good to you. Not always, because anyone can eat garlic or have a dis-ease or have struggle with themselves and alter how they smell to other people. And that's possible. But there's something about the aroma, the pheromones of something that you're attracted to, which tell you that's what you're attracted to. And that's an unconscious level of love, I think. And don't underrate the sense of smell because that's how we distinguish essences. The essence of a thing is in its scent, like a rose. The essence of a rose is in the fragrance. So the sense of smell, the sense of touch, the sense of taste, which I don't know how that works with love, except I really love divinity. So maybe it works with food, but not with people. But people taste good to you too. Having sampled some other people along the way in the encounters of kissing and taste, you discover this person really tastes good. So we realize all of the senses can impress us with something that we associate with love. But I think and sound can especially do that, but only when we get pretty highly influenced by love. Then angelic sound is sound, but a sound that's above the normal rate of hearing. So the singing that's going on in the angelic kingdom doesn't come down into our hearing until we enter into a relationship through love to that kingdom. And then you can go, wow, that was, and it's a common experience also, just that put me in mind of it, that certain gurus can stimulate, and I don't think they're trying to stimulate it, but they stimulate it's an automatic thing that happens around them, sometimes the smell of roses when there are no roses around, or the smell of some other gardenias maybe, or some other plant that has a strong aroma. So those can all happen as the frequencies of love become more engaged in our inner senses, because every outer sense has an inner sense. So that's one way. Now, but the way I encourage people to find it, and your explanation of it was really good because it has to do with service.
Yeah.
The moment that you realize that you're trying to help someone other or a group other, then you're putting yourself automatically in flow with love. Yeah. And the sense of that, see, it's real. Love is real, folks. And when it flows through you to something, it's going to leave a mark. It's going to leave a sensation. And so one of the easiest ways to get in touch with it is color, sight, the sense of sight, which is how humans fundamentally work. We're sight-driven creatures.
Yeah.
Mostly. We have all the other senses, but we kind of figure things out by seeing them. So we want to see love, but love's invisible. It's like, well, that makes it more complicated. So we make it show up for us by imagining it and visualizing it. And what you visualize, this is a kind of an axiom of functioning. What you visualize becomes vision. In other words, you can visualize what the spiritual kingdom looks like, which is many layers and levels of life and activity in the dynamic world of frequencies. But you can visualize it and you will tune yourself into some level of it. Now, you aren't going to see it right away, probably, which is why, I mean, that's something nature does. Nature blinds us to protect us from stuff we can't figure out because you got no teacher for it. You've got no way to know what you're seeing. It takes long enough for a baby to realize what the hell he's looking at in the world because he's not seeing things in some other world anymore where he might have come from. He's looking at the physical world, and all those senses are shut off. And if they suddenly opened up, you'd be inundated by unknown images, which might terrify us or we don't know, but they would certainly distract us from survival. And especially when in the older days when we were more indigenous people oriented. We didn't have a lot of thought going on, didn't have a lot of discrimination going on. So things that impacted us strongly could really upset us a lot. So I use vision. I visualize love, and then I hold that visualization and use it as a talisman. And it doesn't have to be a color. It can be a candle flame, like there's a candle burning. Get that candle. Oh, don't get up. Don't bother. There's a candle going on over there. You can light a candle, and you can use the candle as a talisman. Now, obviously, the candle's not love, although it is a salamander. It's a little elemental life. And when you blow it out, you think, where did it go? Well, it went where it goes. Nobody said you killed it, but it stopped appearing on the top of the wick as a burning gas. So I use things, you can use this. I don't like to use a candle because it's too dynamic. So sometimes I will visualize something like a light inside my awareness, a golden light emanating from a place. And I will assign that the name of love and use it to invite it, to invoke it. And now I know, I know love is here. It's everywhere around us, but I want to bring it into my contact point with it. So I give it something to relate to me through, and then I can relate to it through. So I visualize it, and then I intensify that visualization. And if you continue to do that, at some point you'll realize you're seeing this energy emanating out of the ether, out of what looks like nowhere, but it's not nowhere. It's just a higher frequency coming down into this frequency where you're seeing it. And then you know that visualization has become vision. And that's an exciting moment to register in the consciousness, because it's just like, oh, hell, I must be getting somewhere. Because I know I'm not creating that visualization now, but I'm seeing it. And that takes a bit of fooling around to know that that's true. You don't know that's true because we can trick ourselves easily. So we always leave that skepticism going because it keeps you honest. But that's one way to do it. And sometimes when I'm working with groups or I'm meditating, love will start just falling through the environment as a beautiful golden light. And I know that light, if it's not love, it's the result of love. One of the spiritual teachers said that, color in an angelic being is the way in which that being responds to the energy of love. And because there's different kinds of angelic beings, you might see a blue angelic being, beautiful, radiant blue. Well, that's the way that being responds to love as life flowing to it.
Mm.
So it's not that love is blue. It's blue when it radiates from that being, but you're talking about a being that's so fully sensitive to love that they and love are indistinguishable. But another being is a golden being, and another one might be red, and another one might be purple. And they all have a different frequency, they have a different sense of being, and they're all radiating some aspect of love. So it's a wonderful world when we start to get rich in the experience with it. So pick anything that you want to use as a bridge between you and love, and one that feels natural to you is going to be right for you. And it might seem a little silly. That thing just threw a thumb up at
I
us.
saw that. I don't know what I don't know what that was.
Oh, okay. Well, all right. So, yeah. So anyway, sensing love, visualizing love, identifying love, calling love forth, creating a talisman for it. All of these work. I mean, this is what crystal balls are about. People use crystal balls to focus their concentration into something that has no particular color or identifiable thing to look at in it, so that they can bring that psychic connection into visualization and have it maybe magnified into their perception.
Hmm.
Now, crystal balls are made out of crystal, and it can be created crystal, like crystal glass, like a Sikorsky crystal is, or it could be a natural crystal that's been polished and shaped. Either way, their purity and their organization of the atoms and molecules in the crystal can make them powerful magnifiers of frequencies that are out of our range of vision.
Mm.
So crystal ball could work. Anything you want could work. Honestly, anything. I have yet to think of something that, because love is everywhere and in everything. And it could be a positive symbol like a cross. It can be a circle. It can be any symbol that you choose to remember. Love is wholly positive. It doesn't always feel wholly positive because sometimes it can jar us. So what symbol would you use if you were going to use a symbol? What could we come to mind to use this? If I were going to say, I'm going to draw a symbol and meditate with that symbol and use that symbol as a talisman to bring love, or you might not want to do that. I mean, but if you did want to do that.
I think I mean, if I was just looking at a symbol, I'd maybe go to a heart, because for me, I mean, it'd be the thing that reminds me that it's just heart hope. I think I'm more sensation based, at least with identifying love, than I am visual. So I would use a symbol that brought me back to the thing that really lets me know, which is this heart opening sensation. And
Oh, that's of course.
yeah,
I didn't even think of that in it while we're talking about it, because I'm looking at all these things. But yeah, I'd say the favorite symbols for doing this are a heart, a star, can be a 5-pointed star, 10-pointed star, 6-point, doesn't matter. A heart, a star, a triangle.
yeah.
Sometimes a triangle with a heart in the middle or a cross in the middle. See, these are positive symbols that we have come to feel if we're culturally attracted to these symbols, and some cultures are and some aren't. And in the Hopi Indian culture, they had the swastika, but the swastika rotating in what we would call a positive direction, an evolutionary direction, whereas the German swastika was the same symbol, but rotating with the little arms on it, rotating in the other direction, a wheel, which is a cross. It was a cross rotating in a direction that was involutionary. In other words, going away from love instead of towards it in that distinction.
Yeah. And also
So
with like a triangle, you want it pointing up because it's like the upward direction rather than like a triangle facing down. That'd also be correct.
no, I don't think there's a wrong orientation. I don't know. You might be right. I would tend to put it with the point up.
Yeah.
Because the other 2 points represent the 2 points at the bottom. Let's take an isosceles triangle, because this is important to what the work is of bringing love into your individuality. So at the bottom of the triangle, let's put the heart over on the right side. Let's put, what would you use as a symbol for the head? What would be a natural symbol to you for intelligence or intellect or the head aspect? Hell, I don't know.
This may be saying a lot about us then.
They're going to figure it out anyway. You might as well not worry about it. Well, I mean, the triangle itself is a symbol of intelligence.
Hmm.
So it's kind of hard to find a better one because it's a 3. It's got three corners, and all added together, it makes the circle. So we're going to have to think about it if we want something that's just for the intelligence. But in our what let's go for a second to why we're doing any of this. We're doing this because individualities by themselves need to extend their intelligent experience into love. By doing so, it carries us as individuals into the group experience, because love is essentially the whole group all added together with you in a positive, growing way. So, and we were talking about this earlier, in the 70s, 80s, and 90s of the last century, we had these human potential movements which were developing human personality, style, and taste, and what we wanted and how we wanted everything to be just right for us. Personal lifestyle. We had to have our right fragments, even to the point where we would build our own, and the right jewelry and the right clothes and the right look and the right hairstyle. Everything, instead of just us all looking like somebody put a bowl on our head and cut our hair, we started realizing we could do something the way we wanted. And that started out with youth. Youth had no freedom to do what it wanted. But just go talk to youth today and ask it if it has any idea what it wants. It's doing everything the way it wants. Now, naturally, that's going to make you seem to be different from everybody else. And you are, because you like the tattoo, you got the diamond in your ear, the diamond in your nose, the diamond in your wherever the hell we're putting them. We got all of that going on. But now what's connecting us to everybody else without taking anything away from who you are individually? Well, see, we need something that will do that, because we need to share life. What difference does it make about who you are individually if you're freaking living up in the mountain all by yourself? You can style yourself, but does it really matter? Pretty soon you would lose all sense of that, and you would just put the things on your feet that protect your feet. You would put the thing on your clothes. You'd make clothing that's functional, practical, gets you through the day with the least amount of inconvenience. No, we're not doing that out here in the world. We're dressing ourselves, styling ourselves in relationship to each other. And we're doing that because we need each other. We need a group in order to survive. Now, not totally. I'm from Alaska, so I know about living out in the woods and being about yourself. But that's not a permanent condition for the human race, because sooner or later, you're going to need a kid if you're going to carry on the generation. So group is life. Group is real. Group is the rest of the universe relating to you being the way you are. And we learned that as humans. We've got individuality, we got self-conscious awareness, we got independence, we got all of this stuff. Now, what are you going to use to relate to everything else? Well, that's what life's figured out, and it calls that love. Love brings us into relationship, positive relationship to everything else, without disturbing you, unless you're harming. And love doesn't tolerate harming. It won't stop you from harming directly, but it will back away from you, and you'll be absent love while you're charged with the energy of harm, angry and hateful and full of fear and hubris and pride and the other things that push love out based on self-assertion. It's not that those are bad things, that's just the impact they have on love. So if we want to develop a relationship to love and keep it powerful in our experience, we're going to have to figure out what it does and doesn't do, and what pushes it away and what pulls it in. That's part of what you have to learn to be empowered by it. But the other thing is, why would you want to be empowered by it? What do you think is the advantage you would have over anyone else who has no consciousness of love and doesn't want one? I'm done with love. I'll never touch it again. I've felt that way. So I know others can. So, but if you did have it, what would you gain from it by having a full relationship? I mean, like, love loves you and it empowers you with all of its gifts and allows you to share those gifts with others. That's a pretty good thing, in my opinion. But what do you think that would just give you that maybe you wouldn't have if you didn't have that relationship?
I think it gives you a full consciousness of group life, and then that gives you all of the...
Wait, that's enough. Let's look at that for a second.
Okay.
What do you mean by a full consciousness of group life? Do you think that's what you think love possesses, that so it can give that to you?
No. Well, I think we are already part of group life. I think love is maybe an aspect of group life. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, but
no, I'm just figuring it out myself. So
I think we're unconscious of that most of the time because we're so focused on the self. So we become unconscious of the group life we are already a part of.
Okay.
But love is, I think, the creative energy and power that connects all of that, or at least is a connecting element of all of that. And when I feel fully connected to love, I feel the
connection,
group presence, yeah, and that's the thing that brings the joy.
Does that?
Me.
No, wait. While you're telling me that, I agree with you. I don't disagree with you at all. But when you're experiencing the fullness of love, for you is the fullness of love.
Yeah.
What is that doing to your individuality? How is it getting along with that feeling? Do you feel like you lost that, or that you? Does it feel what?
No, because it's group life experienced through that individuality. So it's like the individuality is still there, but it's totally... It's like, would you prefer to spend Christmas by yourself, or would you prefer to spend Christmas with your whole family? You're still you in that Christmas, but one is filled with the joy, and I mean, each family may vary,
along, yeah.
You know, but there's a fullness, there's a richness.
That's true. I've spent Christmases by myself deliberately, because I would go off the whole day, to all 24 hours of the day, just to be with myself. When I was doing some sort of spiritual journey of some kind, I was doing, I think, Sun Moves Northward, and spending Christmas Day not by myself, but in communion with love and nature and things, but no family, no other people. You know, the idea was to be at a place where no other person even comes across your sight. And I've done that. And then I've done Christmas in Vietnam, where the Christmas is not as much fun as it could be, where the people around you are working their ass off to kill you, because those are good moments to really bother the enemy, is when they're having their spiritual holiday.
Right.
That's when we try to make things really bad as we possibly can for them. Being the sweethearts that warriors are, they do that to each other. And so I've had that experience as well. And it's a little difficult to hang on to love during that day. And the day by yourself is illuminating, but it's really empty.
Hmm.
And then a day with people you actually came together with because you love them and
Yeah.
you really want to spend that day with them. And that is a joyful thing. And even if it's family that you don't, fortunately, don't spend a lot of other time during the year, but if you've got a loved one and you bring that loved one to the family, and then the family brings their loved ones, and not everybody's this and everybody's that, but we all spend that day getting 100% along. And that's wonderful. That's
Yeah.
a joyful thing. And if we focus in on the love aspect of these things in our life, we begin to see how powerful it really is as an energy in the space with us.
And I think the other important thing is whenever you have a connection with someone in that way, when love comes with it, you just realize that you care and love about everyone, whoever's in front of you, no matter how much of a shit you think they are. You love that
You give them the
person. You
best you
care
got.
about them.
Well, not everyone does that, by the way. You try to do that because it's your nature.
Well, I try to do that as a person, but when love comes with it, I think it's you have to work actively not to love and care for the person in front of you.
Some people are worth that effort to actually not care about them. I mean, they've earned it. You know what I mean? But I get you, and I think that that's true of everyone. Now, here's the distinction about why we're doing the Love Foundry, because we talk about all these things because it shares how the world works with others, for us and for them and for love. That's our purpose. But it's the powers that love gives you that you do not possess outside of love, outside of the awareness of love, outside of an active participating relationship with love. And if you have a relationship to love itself and you bring it with you to the party, then that's what you bring. You bring that gift to the party, which was what the Christmas thing was about until we just turned it into toys and shit. but but people, even though they bring their gifts and their toys, they still understand the spirit of it. They still understand. And this, by the way, Christmas, we everybody tries to assume that this whole Christmas thing with Saint Nick and all that came out of Jesus and the experience of his life, which is to some degree true because we've overlaid it on it. But in actual fact, it came out of Northern Europe from people that were having an entirely different experience with love, I think. And it's kind of an esoteric study, but it's one worth taking a look at because you realize there were people there that were relating directly to nature and to the life in nature that comes to them. I'm not sure if it was before what happened in Palestine with Jesus, but it was totally separate from that in terms of experience. And they were experiencing what happens at the birth of the year, what happens at when the sun stops moving northward or starts moving northward and stops moving southward, and all of that happens when you get to Capricorn, which is the pinnacle of the winter in the northern hemisphere, because it started over around somewhere in the Swedish or Danish or Finnish or somewhere in that group of cultures is where that originated as a gift giving and participating and recognition of the one who carried that energy for the tribe. They would look for that person who was going to be born under that star or under that significance, and they would be recognized as someone who had that energy. So it's a wonderful study to think about because it's a gift of those cultures, number one. But number two, it blends seamlessly with love because it was founded on the same idea of what makes things prosper for the group. And then way over here on another side of the planet, you have this experience originating with this individual who embodies love in himself and doesn't go crazy or lose his mind, but actually is able to demonstrate it. So there's wonderful experiences with love that have changed the human course of events. And it wasn't all just wrapped around one person who did this.
Yeah.
And so, but it is wrapped around one thing, which is love itself. Mm-hmm. So that's why we look at empowering ourselves with it, and doesn't require a religion, but some of those things can help. And it doesn't require a philosophy, but a philosophy can be positive. It doesn't require any specific external thing, because it's inside of us, which is what the message of love is in the Christian perspective. It was about taking love from out there and bringing it in here, which I think is a great lesson, because it means you can have a relationship directly with it. And if you do, it can empower you. And if it does, you can do things that others who aren't empowered with it just cannot seem to do. And I think that that's true. It's not that they don't have it in them to do it with. They just have not applied themselves to the relationship. So we're looking at that. How do you empower yourself with that? And what are you going to gain from it? And what are others going to gain from your doing it? That's what I want your perspective on, because that's what you're working on. How are you working on that, and what do you expect to be an outcome from it for yourself and maybe for others?
Yeah. Well, the outcome I want to see from doing it is to strengthen it within myself, to see changes happen within my life, but also for it to have an effect on other people and hopefully grow that in them. I want that aspect, that group life, heart opening connection that has a real power. At least when I open that up and I connect with another person, I know it creates change. I don't know exactly what change is going to happen, but I know it creates change. And I want them to have that same thing. And I think if
well, but the way you have it, or the way they're going to have it?
The way that they're going to have it.
I wanted to just pause you for a minute, because we're setting up a workshop. This is about learning how to do something in your life that maybe you're not very good at doing now. And part of that is your free will, because without that, it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
And it's not going to happen because love has this peculiar property, among all of its many properties, is that it will not violate free will. The subtlest hint that love should leave, and it's out the door. It's terrifying. If the people we love were that sensitive, it's amazing what other people endure of us being just real jerks without leaving. But love's not so subtle as that. It's an energy that obeys instantly, a perfect servant, in perfect humility. So if you say out, and if you say it just by expressing an emotion, anger, out. If you set a thought in that direction, out, it's gone. And it doesn't go anywhere. It's still in the space. It just retreats out of frequency so that you're left the way you just said you wanted to be.
Yeah.
And it's astounding to me, because it's the most powerful thing in the universe. As they say, it put the spheres in motion. It's turning the universe. It's turning the galaxy. It's turning the solar system. That's the energy of love. But I know physics says it's just a matter of whatever, but you can't take the love out of it. So we might as well put it in it and see what it's doing. But if it's that powerful, and it's driven by something greater than itself, which is the whole purpose of life, including love, then how is it so utterly responsive to human free will? That's like some sort of really strange truth. But if it is a truth, you have to find it in your own life. But I find that to be absolutely true.
Yeah.
And the experiences that I've seen in my life, and looking at biblical experiences, looking at all the other experiences that happen in the universe of interaction with love that humans have, I find it to be true. When it's welcomed and you refuse to be separated from love, it's powerful and it stands in you and it creates great good in your life. Period. And if you banish it, it goes instantly, like any loving, sensitive person would. And I find myself being, and I never used to be this way because I was a Marine, right? But I find myself in human life doing the same thing even when I don't want to. If I feel unwelcomed somewhere for some reason, or if I feel someone doesn't want me to share something with them, then I don't want it. Immediately I'm like, and I think, okay, wait, I'm overreacting, but I'm withdrawing away because I feel that sense of rejection. And sometimes you got to be tougher than that. I know how to be tougher than that, but but I don't want to. I want to go. I want to leave the situation if I feel that. And sometimes I just can't help myself. I have to just, even if it's raining outside or cold, I'm just more comfortable out of a space than in the energy of active resentment or rejection or anger towards me. And I'll just like, okay, see you later. And I wasn't always that way, obviously. But when you've had enough of war, you kind of get to that place. You kind of get to the place where you really don't want any more violence of any kind whatsoever, in any way whatsoever at all, period. Explanation point. Done, done, done. So that brings you into the awareness that being empowered by love makes you strong, but you also don't have any right to impose it on anyone else. It's not something you can impose on anyone else. You can offer it, and you can't even give them your love because you don't own any of it. It's just like it's air. It's like giving someone your air, but they don't need your air. They got their own. What they need to be is conscious of it.
Yeah.
And so it's, remember that, that story about, if someone gives someone a fish and they have a meal and teach them how to fish and they can feed themselves forever at the expense of the fish kingdom. But nevertheless, love's like that. What's the point in giving love if you've got it and you have a relationship to it and it's coming up into you and you're enjoying this incredible connection and sensation and empowerment from it? Then you want them to have that. Yeah. You want them to find that. And you want to find more of that, and strengthen that and grow that, not just give it to them, because otherwise then you're making them a slave to your attachment to you. And then that's not love anymore. That's bondage, human bondage. So,
but I think it's like, it's not a place, but I guess it's a place in our consciousness where we're sort of open and receptive to that. And when I'm, at least, I think this is probably a universal thing. When I'm in that place, I want everyone to join me there. It's not I want to give them the experience that I'm having from being there and receptive to it. I want them to join that place, and that might be very different to the place I'm kind of experiencing, which is being conscious of love. But I want them to join me because I know the sensation, I know the connection, I know.
Right. I think that's really good. I think that makes us over enthusiastic in a certain way, because I do get that sense, especially if someone's in a state of depression or a state of lack of emotional faith in themselves or strength in their relationship with love. Every disease there is just a lack of love. There isn't any other cause of anything except the lack of love. So when someone is experiencing any lack of love in their life to the point where it may be causing their health or their mental health or their emotional health or their total health to be impacted, then of course we want to give them ours.
Yeah.
But what we're really doing, I think this is important to understand, is that what we're really doing is we're invoking it from them. We're offering love. Let's put it this way. We're offering that like we're doing now. I mean, we're doing that. We're offering because it's coming here. We're not hiding it. We're not trying to push it away. We're selling the shit out of it. So we're offering that love. But what we want from that offering is for someone to be contacted, recognize it, find it in themselves, and respond with their own unique version of love. Yeah. That's what makes joy happen. When that happens to you with someone else, joy arises because you realize there's more love than there was a minute ago. Theirs is in the room and yours is in the room. And I think spiritual groups get together and try to amplify that with each other. And they're sincerely doing that, but they're sometimes more focused on the response in their body, the joy of having it, the sensation of fun, the righteousness of it, if you're doing it that way, or the whatever version you call it, than they are the realization of love itself. Mm-hmm. And if we shift a little bit into that, it doesn't take anything away from the glory of what we're up to, but it does bring in a living presence. And that cannot be amplified enough, because in the end, that living presence of love, over time, becomes our identity. Our identity starts to merge with it. Mm-hmm. And the more we merge with it, the more powerful we become in it, the more we realize it is the living part of life.
Yeah. The living presence is that. Yes, you totally experience that living presence of love, and that I think is what brings the group aspect, brings the joy, but it's the and that's great. That's a great way to explain it.
Well, it's something that we can look forward to, and I'll end that topic of that because it can be misused. In other words, if I want to create an event, and this, I think it's misused many times by persuasive religious people. When I say religious rather than saying spiritual, because I think the misuse of love or the misuse of the energy in you that generates the feeling of love isn't spiritual. It can be religious, because religions can be really harmful, but they can also be enormously helpful. And so if we want to, and the way this works, and it's a guru thing, it's a Christian thing, it's a Muslim thing, it's everybody's religion. If a person in it wants to attach you to them, their ego, their persona, then we use the connection between us that's actually that triangle with love. And then I bond that you to me with that. And I'm the cause of you having that because I brought it to you. I said, feel that, and I made you feel something. And then you went, yeah, that feels really good. Well, good, that's because of me. So now you're stuck with me. And that's not something that we're ever doing, because we think that violates the laws of love and will eventually bankrupt you from love. So it's true, this sense of joyful community and communion and unity that love offers us is not to be taken by anyone as some way in which we control other people.
Yeah.
At all. Then you will abandon love, and it will leave the group, and you'll end up having a cult. That's what a cult is. A group of people that are bound around someone's personality, not the pure free energy of creative power of life. It's subtle, and it's not always easy to see, but if you feel it, if you get the feeling of that, stop and look and say, what's going on here? Is this some sort of bondage? Is this some sort of cult thing? Because it can be either way. It can be the same group of people, but somebody else leading the event.
Yeah.
And it becomes a shared joy with love, or this other person, his motive is there to get the bonding it to them. And it isn't, and it's not the religion, it's not the group of people, it's just that one person. So we have to learn to discriminate this stuff if we're going to empower ourselves with love and not violate its relationship to us so that we lose it. There's no point in going after this incredibly positive power and make it part of our life if we're going to end up screwing up and losing it, which can happen. And if it happens to you, take a deep breath, reconnect with yourself, figure out why you lost it, work on it, and it'll be back, because love never abandons anyone. And the darkest prison hole of where someone is who deserves to be there, earned that spot, love is there, waiting for that person to just go, you know what, I'm really sick of this. I'm a friend of mine who learned Bikram yoga with me. He was a big black guy. He was a wonderful guy. And he was kind of he was living up in Oakland, and he kind of made his living stealing stuff because he didn't really have any other way to make a living. And he went to jail because he got caught doing it. And then he got out. And in between going to jail and getting out, he would work for a guy that was a plumber because he was big and strong. And he was a really nice guy, but that was the only way he knew how to get by. And he said, the last time I got in trouble, he said, my mother came and talked to me. And she said, I forget his first name, damn it. Anyway, she said, son, you're going to have to give up stealing. You're just no good at it. And he said, I just heard what she said. And I realized she was right. I was just no good at it because my heart wasn't in it. I really was no good at it. And she said it to me in a way that was like, no judgment about me, no judgment about stealing. You're just no good at it. You got to give it up. And then the guy who was the plumber said, look, what do you love to do? And he said, I like taking yoga. And it was Bikram yoga at the time. And he said, okay, if I get you out of jail this time and pay for the course to teach you yoga, will you teach other people yoga and stop stealing stuff? And he said, oh, hell yes, I love the yoga. And I met him when he was teaching that class I was taking yoga at the time from in the course, and he was teaching the course, and he taught it fabulously because he was being so careful to do it exactly right. And it was agony because he would work his way so slowly through a yoga posture that by the time he got to the end of the posture, you were in agony because you're holding yourself out in one of these impossible situations, especially the kind that Bikram liked to get you into. But he was just trying to do it just perfectly. But the sincerity and the gift is demonstrable. And that's where you see love at work in someone's life who's willing to let good come in. And we have to find that in ourselves. And this is what the purpose of a workshop is, that brings love into the communication. This is, you're here and I'm here, but love is here. And it's that we need to open up into contact with. And that means this whole thing that we've done today is just about, because it's my fault because I didn't go further with the conversation maybe, but how do you see it? How do you identify it? Because that's where we start. I think you're right about that. And then we learn why we're blocking it. And then we learn how to release it. And then we learn how to make it work in our life before we're any good at it. And the most important thing, we'll leave it with this probably today, is that if you want it, it's here. But if you want it in your life now, then you have to commit to doing that. It's commit, not to us or anyone like us, but to love. If you're going to commit to bringing love into your life as a power, it will empower you. And through you, it will make everything in your life change. Every single thing. Your physical health, your well-being, your family's well-being, your psychology, your emotions, your body, everything is benefited by the touch of love. And you don't have to graduate from Harvard to get the degree in love so that you can go have it in the world. It meets you immediately if your commitment out there is to go get it. If I say I'm committed to making that work in my life, it says, okay, I'll take you at your word. And it's like, then it starts working in your life as long as you're honoring the journey to it. And honoring the journey to it simply means applying technique by taking action towards it and not rejecting it. So that's why a workshop is important, because you don't have to figure it all out. You figure out what works to do that, to keep that going. And you figure out how faith is a function of all that, and how calming the ego, which often rejects love, calming that down and letting it receive love, loving yourself that way is really important to it. Your individuality has no problem with love, but ego has a belief in its separativeness from other people, and that separates it from love. So that does have to be loved out of conviction of its separativeness, because there's no such thing. There's nothing in the universe that can actually separate itself from love. Can't do it. No atom can separate itself from love and still exist, because love is life. They're one and the same. Now, does that make sense to you?
Yeah, it does.
Well, where do you want to go with this? We bored him enough.
Well, I think I think when it comes to at least identifying love, I think we've done a good job of that.
Well, not good enough.
Well, not good enough for sure.
But
at least we've given the best that we can give.
Because at some point, I want you to stop, and we'll rise in awareness into the frequencies of love. We'll get up there into it, and then we will visualize love in some way, like a golden energy flowing down, and we'll continue that in the group consciousness that love offers us together, until you have a really strong sense of that presence, and you see that you will see that energy floating down through your consciousness. You go, whoa, wait a minute, that's it, isn't it? Yeah, that's it. That's just a visualization of it, or that's the actual seeing of love shining through atoms of frequencies of energy. And it's a startling thing, because it gives power to us. It gives depth to us. So we all those experiences we can have and should have and want to have, but we have to take it step by step. Yeah. Because that's a posture. We end up in a posture, which is different from holding some idea in your mind. This is not an intellectual exercise. We have to get beyond intellect, which serves the mind. It serves the ego. But love doesn't serve intellect. Love serves us. So we have to get to the place where we can have that energetic experience with it, free of thinking about it. Then you're open to soar with the birds. They fly through space and do all of these wonderful things without thinking about it at all. They just do it. And love is the same way. We need to get to a place where that is just a free-flowing relationship of a living energy of life in us, and we don't think about it at all. We just do it. Then that happens if we take our time and find that posture where you can do that, where you can live that way. But that's not the way we've been living, so it's a little bit new. It's a little bit challenging, but it's the way we will live. And we won't lose any of our individuality to do it, but it will bring us into union with everyone else, and you will want them all to be able to do it with you, to share it with you, to grow in it with us. That's the next great human potential movement, and it's because we're ready for it. It's here. It's here right now. So
I think that sums it up. Thank you, everyone, and see you at the next episode.
Don't you wanna know about love? Wanna know love? Don't you wanna know? Don't you wanna know about love? Wanna know